What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 55 of Podcast Reload, a general gaming podcast where we invite Sifted.net community guests from around the world onto the show to talk about video games and the games industry in all its weird ways. I am your host, the sole Japan dweller, Evan Piotrowski, and joining us today are two Sifted community guests, Liam, aka Tombraiders.
Hello.
And Patrick, aka... Oh, I'm so sorry, Patrick. I want to say JoachimDragoon. Shit, I was right.
JoachimDragoon.
And I should have been confident in my answer, yeah. JoachimDragoon. Patrick, how you doing? Good?
Hello there.
Good. Thanks for coming on. Patrick, this is your second time. Awesome.
Yeah, I'm super excited.
Thanks for coming on. And Liam, you've been on, I don't know, like 8 times or something?
A handful of times at this point.
All right, so lucky for you, Liam, you get to put your second game in the video game vault. You lucky man, you. Yeah. So, community corrections, updates, feedbacks before we get into the video game vault. Apologies, everyone. I got a new job starting in April. I moved schools, and it's a lot more responsibility. I kind of moved up the ladder a bit, and I am learning that slowly but surely. And work is kind of kicking my ass right now, and I get home later. I work Saturdays now. I have a heavier load on my plate. So episode 34, I still haven't even edited it. It's going to come out, well, it'll be out by the time you listen to episode 55. So once I get into the rhythm of my new job, I'm going to start, or hopefully I get into the rhythm of my new job. I plan to. Once I do, I'm going to start recording, and my goal is to start releasing episodes fortnightly like I used to. But apologies for the kind of erratic episode releases this year, especially because I was applying for the job and then I got it, and then there's this waiting period and all this other stuff. So once I get used to it, these episodes should be recorded and coming out a bit on a more regular basis. So apologies for that. All right, now moving into the video game vault. We are making a vault fit for the most noteworthy, historically important, prestigious, or whatever, just simply awesome video games of all time. If you could pick one game, and in Liam's case, 2, to put in a giant video game vault to survive an earthly cataclysm in order for future generations to play and learn from, what game would you choose? So, we have Skyrim, Metal Gear Solid, Fallout 2, Dark Souls, Ico, A Link to the Past, South Park: The Stick of Truth, The Talos Principle, The Ocarina of Time, Super Mario Odyssey, Persona 4, and Liam, what are you throwing in the vault this week?
The first time I did Dark Souls, so I'm still surprised. Well, I'm not surprised, but I could do The Last of Us just because nobody's thrown that in yet, but I'm not going to do it because I'm sure I'll come back and I'll put it in then. This time,
right? Okay, it's like the fantasy draft. You know it's going to go in eventually, so pick something maybe out of left field a bit.
Exactly, like something a bit more close to the heart, maybe. Well, recently I played this game called Life is Strange. And for all of its faults, because it's not a perfect game by any means, I think it's quite a special game that a lot of people should probably put some time to play. It's very different than any other game you would expect, and for that I just really enjoyed it, so I would add that to the vault.
Yep, I think it's a good choice. I played through it. It must have been the end of 2015, maybe. Guessing, I think it came out 2015, or am I thinking 2016? Well, whatever. I played through it, and yeah, I thought it was a great game. It's one of those games that kind of shows that, Telltale needs to step their game up a little bit, because there's other people making adventure games better in the same vein of how Telltale has popularized the genre, but making the games better than they have been.
Yeah,
I think the Telltale kind of, it's been a bit stale. So when you see a Life is Strange, it's kind of like, hey, you guys better well, obviously make a new engine, but
Yes.
yeah.
It's been a long time coming.
I think Game of Thrones was my cutting off point.
Well, was it? Yeah, I bought that, Patrick, and I played the first episode, and I was like, I just can't do this. But I actually came back when they released Batman, the season 1 on PlayStation Plus, and I played through that, and I was actually pleasantly surprised for the most part.
It's a bit more smooth, like because even though their engine's the same, they have taken some liberties to smooth out it quite a bit.
Right.
Because I remember, Game of Thrones was a technical mess in a lot of ways.
Okay. Yeah, I still haven't played through that. I own it. Maybe I should at some point. But I just remember Batman, there's a part where you're supposed to meet your old-time friend in a like really dingy, rundown park in Gotham City. And so, there's you're walking around as Bruce Wayne, and there's all these like, if you get close to something you can interact with, a button prompt pops up. And so there's like these shopping carts knocked over. And so like, okay, well, I'm kind of one of those people that I want to walk around and interact with everything before going to the main thing. So I go over and I interact with a shopping cart, and then it cuts to like Bruce Wayne. He kind of looks down at the shopping carts, and then he like looks at some homeless people, and then just cuts back to the gameplay. I was like, well, what the fuck was the point of that?
It's not exactly smooth either.
Privilege of being rich.
But it's like, I see the homeless people and I see the shopping carts. I don't need you wasting my time with a useless button prompt. Like, if it's going to have a button prompt, make it meaningful. And I think, bringing it back around, Life is Strange did that. Like, especially Liam, I don't know if you... Well, obviously you do remember. The first time you get to, like, the front of the school where everyone's kind of hanging out.
Yeah, that's right.
There's, like, so many cool things to do.
There is. And you can actually miss
area.
quite a lot. Like,
you can, yeah. So yeah, like, and especially like there's like photo moments in that game that you can miss if you don't go around and kind of like poke and prod at everything. And I just think Life is Strange did that very, very well, and it actually made me care about the characters.
Yeah.
A lot of times in those games you don't really care about them.
I played it quite recently, right? Well, it was quite funny because I went back and played Horizon Zero Dawn the other day because I've yet to play the Frozen Wilds DLC, and I was like,
okay,
what's Chloe Price doing in my Horizon? It's like, oh, now I recognise Ashley Birch's voice. It sounds
right.
It sounds like a blue-haired character from Life is Strange is now a red-haired girl in Horizon.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Patrick, have you played Life is Strange? Are you a fan of adventure games, or?
I'm a fan of the Game of Thrones. I still enjoy the storyline. I like The Wolf Among Us. That's actually my favorite because my wife loved it. So
The Wolf Among Us is my favorite as well.
Awesome game.
But as for Life is Strange, I had not had a chance to play it like thoroughly. I kind of played the demo, but I never got a chance to play it like I should have.
Well, I mean, if you're a fan of some of those games and you want like a slightly different twist in angle on the adventure genre, and you can get it at a cheap price, I would recommend it.
Yeah, the prequel game Before the Storm is very good as well.
Oh, I haven't played that yet. Yeah, I was a bit worried because it wasn't Don't Nod, but
well, it's strange because it's a lot better in a lot of ways.
You know what, Liam? Life is strange.
Yeah, it is strange.
Sorry.
It's better. It's a lot better in a lot of ways, and then it's also a little bit worse in some ways. But it's definitely worth playing, if only because you liked the characters, I suppose.
Okay, I mean that's enough for me because I quite enjoyed Chloe as a character. And most of the other ones as well. All right, awesome. Life is Strange going in the vault. And Patrick, how about yourself? What are you putting in the vault this week?
Final Fantasy Tactics: War of the Lions.
Ooh.
War of the Lions, is that that's not the original for the PlayStation 1, right?
No, it's for the PSP, but I did play the original, and so when I played the PSP version of it, I was more appreciative of the changes that they made. So there's some new classes, and then the storyline is a lot better because they write it in like older English. So and also, I mean, believe it or not, those FMVs were really cool. So I
remember those.
Yeah, so I am a big fan of it. I've actually played it again recently. So it's just it's a very fun game. Have you guys played it?
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
I played it on PSP as well. Like that was
oh wow,
a really good game.
Look at you two rocking the PSP. It's a good system, I suppose.
It will never die.
It'll never die. It's actually sitting under my couch right now. My wife went on a trip with her friend and came back with Katamari Damacy and a PSP. She played that game, and then it's been under my sofa for like the entirety of its existence. And every now and then I just point to him like, why did you buy the PSP? I've only ever played for Final Fantasy Tactics games. I've only ever played the PlayStation 1 game. And I think I've talked about this on a previous podcast. I'm bad at tactics games. That's why I've never liked them. As a kid, I never got past the second battle in Final Fantasy Tactics. I couldn't beat it.
Oh man.
Or like the third,
You're
like the
missing out.
second or third, it was too fucking hard for me. Like I played it and I kept dying. I was like, I don't get these games, and then I've never actually gone back and played a tactics games. Like my brother liked the Ogre battle games and Tactics Ogre, and I completely fell off of them. But I know that Final Fantasy Tactics holds a special place in many, many people's hearts. And so just from what I've absorbed from what people have said about the game who are actually good at it and not shit like me, I've heard great things about it. Like, how long of a game is it?
Well, it depends, because if you do some of the side quests, it can take up to maybe 60 to 80 hours, depending on if you want to like train in your new recruits, if you want to get all the jobs and all that. So there's a lot of secrets in the game. I mean, you also get Cloud. So yeah, that's pretty good.
I remember that.
It's a good length for a portable game.
Right, yeah. That's a hefty game.
Yeah, that's the only game in the series I like, though. Like Tactics Advance, I did not care for.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
So that's
only one I played.
That's the pinnacle of the series, huh? Final Fantasy Tactics. What of the Lion is it called?
War of the Lions.
War of the Lion. All right. Okay. So our two additions to the video game vault this week are Life is Strange and Final Fantasy Tactics: War of the Lions. All right. Moving on into what we've been playing this week. Liam, let's start with you. What have you been playing this week?
This week, I should say, I guess the past month, God of War, or Dad of Boy, as
Dad of
many
Boy.
people
That's a
call
great...
it.
That's a great name. All right, and I think Patrick, you've played God of War as well.
Oh
right?
yeah. Yeah.
All right, and so
Still
have I.
playing it, but yeah.
So we've all played. Still playing it, and Liam, you're still playing it. Have you finished it?
I mean, I finished the main story, but I will be going back to try to finish off some of the side activities.
Okay, so let's try to be as vague as possible in terms of story stuff. But so, what do you think? What are you thinking?
I'm loving it.
Well, I was surprised when everybody died.
Both of you. Yeah.
Oh, so,
like right at the beginning of the game.
I know, it was terrible.
You know, I'm actually a big fan of the
end.
story. I just like the fact that Kratos is a crappy dad, and he knows it. And it's just amusing how like he interacts with what's his name, Atreus, and most of the time he calls him boy. And the only time he says Atreus is when something is going down. So
right.
So I'm a big fan of that.
I love the way in which he calls him boy as well. He's like, boy.
Right.
It's just perfect.
Stories are for the boat, boy.
Exactly. Yeah. What is it? The guy that voices Kratos is Christopher Judge. He used to be in, I think it was Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Yeah, he's got quite the voice.
Yeah, it's really excellent. There are some
booming,
excellent moments where he's just shouting, and I'm like, oh, Man, it's like listening to Nat King Cole.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What stands out? Like, what do you want to talk about in terms of God of War? I mean, everyone's talked about it, showered with praise. Like, what do you have to say about the game?
Oh, I mean, I think it's every bit as good as most of the critics have been saying it is. I was so surprised by how good it was, actually, because I was excited for the game, but I wasn't as excited for it as I probably should have been.
I think I'm with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh, cool, a new God of War game, but I wasn't like chomping at the bit to get my hands on it.
Yeah. Well, it's nice because even though it is very different, it is still God of War. It's a lot like the old games, a lot more than you would think, which is very odd. Because even though the camera's closer, um, the weapons still have that same feel, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
That the gameplay still feels visceral in the same way that the old games do. But it's just a lot more mature. It's a lot less gutting the enemies for the sake of gutting enemies, and it's a lot more interesting in terms of the way the gameplay evolves, and it's a lot more mature in the way it handles its themes and its characters.
Yeah, I agree, and I really like how they've redesigned the combat system. I think they do a good job of kind of slowly building on the initial system and making it more complex as you go on, so that it's not overwhelming in the beginning. And then by the end of the game, you're just, you're doing shield bashes and like ground pounds and stomps, and then switching from fisticuffs to axe and spinning around and dodging stuff. And you just really, before you know it, you kind of really understand the system. But in the beginning, it's not all thrown at you all at once. So, and I just thought there was enough there to keep you interested in the combat the entire way. A lot of times with games, NieR Automata, Bayonetta 2, they introduce everything at once, and the systems never get any more complex, and then they just expect you to be engaged with that for like 10, 12, 20 hours, and it's just, you can't, like, for me personally, like, that doesn't work. You have to give me something of interest and add something new, and just keep it fun and keep it challenging at the same time.
Wait.
And I think that combat system fucking nails all, like, just the checklist. It checks all those boxes for me.
What you were just saying, Evan. I just need to gameplay systems getting old or boring. Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. I just have to say it.
Hey,
I just have to.
I'll hear none of that on my podcast. No, but like I've said, like, the worst part of Breath of the Wild is the combat system. It's so primitive. And you know what? Another interesting thing to me is, like, the combat system, although it's very similar to a couple of other combat systems. Like I played Bloodborne, and then right after Bloodborne, I played God of War. There are some similarities there. Like, I was so happy that you used R1 and R2 to fight. I was like, oh, you click in the right R3 to lock on. I'm like, oh, this is great, because I just played a game where that's exactly what you do. So I didn't have to, like, wrap my head around a new control scheme. But it doesn't feel like Bloodborne or the Souls games at all. But there's some similarities in terms of what buttons are used to control.
That's one of the things. But is that it borrows a lot from a bunch of other games that have been successful, but then it also adds its own flair. Like, it adds its own appeal and a few things that it can say that it gave to the genre, I should say.
Yeah, I think it feels new. It's like, it felt like fresh. The combat, I absolutely loved it.
I totally agree.
So,
I mean, I think also if you played the prior games, I mean, what was it, the Blades of Chaos, where, I mean, that's all you really used for the most part, unless you were doing a puzzle. So I think that the fact that they're changing the camera, and then they're changing, I guess, the weapon, I think that's a great idea, and I think that's why a lot of people feel that the combat's so fresh, is because it's the same old character, yet he's fighting differently.
I think, and I love the axe. I love that fucking axe.
Oh.
It's great.
Mm-hmm.
It's a wonderful act, and I'm sorry, but if Crystal Dynamics hasn't been watching what God of War did, and because they're creating a new Avengers game, it's like they're gonna have to like change Thor's hammer in that game to be more like the axe from God of War, surely.
Or else it won't cut it. Every review is going to compare those axes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they got to step their game up.
Well, I mean, aren't they going to give him that hammer and not the axe? I mean,
yeah, but in terms of like how it flings back to Thor, like they have to make it. They have to give it that like oomph when it comes back to your hand for that Avengers game, or else people are going to criticize it for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna have to figure out how he flies too, Thor. But I guess that's another topic.
Oh, with the spinning of the hammer. All right. I mean, we're kind of we're echoing what the internet has been saying about the game, and I don't. Yeah, it's great. I absolutely loved it. It's definitely a game that has PP written all over it. And everyone should go play it. Do we need to add any more to Dad of Boy?
Well, yeah, everybody does need to go play.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Like totally.
Oh yes.
It's one of those games that keeps you surprised all the way through. Like even when you think, the game's probably going to get a bit boring now, it doesn't. It just keeps adding new things that make you go, oh wow, I didn't expect that to happen, or oh, that was a cool moment. Oh man, the game has some seriously good character moments, and even if you've been turned off by the series in the past, like by the ultra violence and the blood and the guts and the gore, or you just think I shouldn't play it, maybe I should play the other games first, you don't need to play the other games first. You can start this game and you'll know what's up. In fact, you could just go onto IGN and watch a catch-up video and then you'd be good to go.
That would totally be enough.
Or you could go to sifted.net. Just gonna say.
Yeah, they got just type in God of War and you'll get tons of stuff, tons of pull up videos and articles and opinion pieces about all that stuff very easily. I will say though, so we've been very, very positive, or 100% positive on this. A couple of nitpicks for me. I think the menu system is like, there's too much to look at on every single screen. So much so that when you first pop up the menu system, there's so much text that like your eye doesn't know what to look at first. So like when you just see it and like, or like when you'll pick up like an upgrade and it's like, it tells you what the upgrade is, but it's like, is this for my axe or is this for the pommel? Like sometimes I didn't know what the upgrade was for. So I'd go back into my menu system and I'd like fish around to see like exactly what I had picked up. I know that now you can change the text size, but I just think like the menu screen is way too fucking busy. They could have made it look a bit easier on the eye, or at least display the most important information so that your eyes see it first and then naturally take you down to like the other information that you're supposed to read after that. So that's one thing. Another thing is, okay, so how do you guys feel about this? Everyone is going on like there's no camera cuts, right? The entire game, there's no camera cuts. And someone brought this up in a podcast. I don't know who it was, but they said, if they wouldn't have told us that, I don't think I would have noticed. And I agree. And I think like it's cool to be able to say that in a sentence. Because, you talk about like the Goodfellas long shot that Martin Scorsese did where they're going through like the back way through like in the club or the restaurant, through the kitchen and into the club. Like it's a really awesome like long shot, and it's like, this was one take, this is a single take. Saying that it's a single take is cool, but it actually isn't, because there's several ways they masked loading screens slightly to the game's detriment. When you're fast traveling, I think that fast travel world you go into takes way too fucking long.
Well, it isn't so bad to begin with, or at least through most of the main game, just because whenever you are fast traveling, the characters will still be having some interesting conversations. But
that is true.
Like later in the game, when you're trying to mop up a bunch of the side quests, or just you're trying to do a bunch of completionist activities, it can be very monotonous going back and forth through the fast travel, and it is pretty much a glorified loading screen.
Yeah, I mean, it's very clever how they did
yeah.
it. I as in the technical aspect of that, it's like, yes, that is great. However, I just think like it doesn't have to be one long take. That's not necessary. No one would have noticed if you wouldn't have said it. Just give me like a fucking loading screen. Like, I don't know. Like, I would have lived with that. But whatever. Like, that's just kind of a nitpick. But when you're trying to mop up the platinum trophy in that, it's just like, oh my god. Like, I didn't even want to use the fast travel because it felt like it took so fucking long.
No, Evan, it is a fair criticism, especially because the one take stuff is a bit. It's it doesn't matter because when you die, that take stops.
That's true.
So
yeah, that's very true.
Yeah, actually, my one criticism of the game is also the loading and also the fact of how they deal with fast travel. Like, just give me a map, let me pick where I want to go, and give me a loading screen. I didn't. In fact, to be honest with you, I probably jumped off the cliff because I couldn't stand waiting. So I ended up jumping off the cliff. Of course, the first time I really thought I was supposed to do that, but then,
so did I.
But then I just kept doing it every time I use it. Like, I do it at least once every 2 times I use this portal.
That's really funny. Another thing is if people are on the fence, don't play the game on hard unless you want to almost break your controller or your TV or any pieces of furniture around you. The first battle in that game, I died at least 12 times.
Wow, that
at
bad,
least. Yeah, that game fucking wrecked me. There was probably about 5 times during that game I thought I was going to have to bump it down to normal for my own sanity. But when you start getting upgrades and upgrading your armor and stuff like that, the game actually gets easier, easier along the further you get. But I actually don't knock the game for that because it is a harder difficulty setting, so it's not really on them. But man, that game was hard.
Yeah, normal difficulty is hard enough.
Yeah, I've heard the same thing. Like, I actually, in terms of difficulty, I've heard like they're probably very similar. I think Shane was talking about that normal is pretty hard as well. Like, you end up dying a lot if you're not careful.
Just depends how much of a glutton for pain you are.
Yeah, I don't know why I do it really. Like, I was talking to the Impartialist, Nick Rawcliffe, on one of his streams where he's just like, dude, I want to have fun when I play games. And it's like, I don't need to go out and say like, oh, I beat this game on a hard difficulty. And it's funny because it's like, I kind of want to say that like I just did, but also it's like, while I'm doing it, I'm like, why am I doing this? Who am I? I guess I'm proving to myself that I can do it, or I want the challenge. Like, I'm not really sure, but sometimes it's just like, you just bump it down and make your life easier. Like, it's not necessarily about the difficulty, it's about the journey. And if you're about to if it's the difference between throwing your controller out the window versus having a better time, probably should just bump it down. But anyways, God of War is a great game. All right, so we've all played that. Patrick, you have one more game that you've been playing, right?
Yeah, I've been playing Super Robot Wars V.
So what is that for?
So it's for the PS4 and the Vita, and it's
okay.
It is Japanese, but then there's also an English translation that's released for Singapore. So for those who like to export their games from different countries, it will work in your PS4 and your Vita. And so I'm playing it for the Vita, and it's, I'm kind of towards the end right now, but essentially it's a crossover between a whole bunch of different mechas. So if you like Gundam Seed, or Mazinger, Evangelion.
Oh, Mazinger Z, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, all those anime stuff, they're in there. I'm a really big fan of it. I mean, it's kind of like tactics games, so Evan, you probably wouldn't like it too much, but it's it's about 50 stages. There's a new game plus. If you like anime, you should definitely check it out. If you order it on Amazon, sometimes you can get a deal for about $50. I mean, the upcharge is definitely there. Like, it's probably gonna be $10-$15 more than you would pay normally for a Vita game or a PS4 game. But there's an English translation, which is actually really good. And
That's good.
I'm also playing Super Robot Wars X, but I've been playing more of V because it just has a lot more anime characters that I recognize.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I would recommend you guys
Yeah.
get it. It's actually really, it's especially you, Evan. I mean, you can literally go down the street and grab it. Um,
Oh yeah, I probably could. It looks cool. I'm looking at screenshots now. Like I've seen this before, in some forum, because I recognize the style of like the cutscenes and
mhm.
stuff. So yeah, it looks interesting. I just like I would like to say that I would buy it, but if it's a strategy, if it's like a tactical strategy game, like I
It's
can't
really
do it.
easy. Like I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm blowing through the game. Because I mean, you do get money to customize these mechs or whatever, but I mean, you literally just have to keep customizing them every level, and then you'll do just fine. It's probably the easiest tactics game you will ever play in your life.
Well, that's if you're kind of like selecting a unit and moving
Mm,
it, I can't play it. I'm out the window.
mm.
I don't know why I'm out the window. Like anything where you're like it's basically like a mouse click on a unit and then moving it spaces. Like for some reason like that type of gameplay, it's just like I just can't do it. Um,
Man, you're
I don't know,
missing out.
like Liam. What? Yeah, I know. I like. There's people like as a genre, like people fucking love the genre. Like Liam, do you play any kind of tactical
Oh
strategy
well,
games or turn-based
one of
strategy
my
games?
biggest loves is FTL on PC. Uh, FTL
Ah,
Faster Than Light.
I've heard things about
Oh,
FTL.
wonderful game! I love that so much.
I just I get anxious just hearing that name. I've heard so much about it. It's cruel
Oh, it is
difficulty
quite
level.
cruel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I mean, there's some games like Super Meat Boy or Hotline Miami, like that type of cruel difficulty. I do like. Um, but all right, and just to quickly wrap up, it's been like 2 months since we've last recorded an episode. So just a quick rundown of what I've been playing. I beat the Fist of the North Star Yakuza
Ooh, how is that?
studios made. It's really good. It's like I can't say for certain, but I'm pretty sure just based on how it plays, it's on the same engine as the Yakuza 0 and Kiwami
Oh.
games. It is not the new Dragon engine, the Yakuza 6 Kiwami 2 engine, that's for sure. It's cool. I mean, if you're a fan of Fist of the North Star, then you will see tons of characters that you know that pop up. It's like really really cool. There's a lot of winks to fans, and the combat's good. The combat's exactly like Yakuza, but instead of Kiryu, you're Kenshiro, and that's awesome. You there's a skill tree that when you upgrade, you can pick certain moves, and he does all of his cool like super like Hyakuretsuken and all these moves, and like turns around and says, you're already dead. As the guy behind you, his head slowly explodes. Like it's got all of the highlights of what you'd expect from a Fist of the North Star game, and it's really long. Like shit, I must have played the game for like 35 or 40 hours. So there's a lot there. Um, some of the areas you could tell like it really looks like they've built like a texture for like the desert and they just kind of plopped like assets on it. It kind of just looks like that a little bit. So you could tell it's more of like a budget game. But if you are a fan, and if you are a fan of the Cabaret Club from Yakuza 0, they have it again in this game, and it is fucking great. Like I got 100% on the Cabaret Club. It's like really really addicting. But yeah, I beat that. I finished that. I talked about it last episode. Actually, I think I was halfway through it at the time. I beat Prey, aka System Shock 3. If you are a fan of System Shock, you will absolutely love Prey. I fucking love that game. It was so good. I platinum Hellblade, Senua Sacrifice. Great game. I'm really surprised that I liked it so much. That opening of that game is amazing. Like it hooked me immediately. Putting those headphones on, and it's it's a very unique experience. I played What Remains of Edith Finch. I loved it. I thought it was really really cool. A lot of interesting kind of mini games and side games that you you do in that game that's just really really unique. God of War, obviously. Bloodborne. I fucking actually played a Souls game. My friend.
Oh my god.
My friend who, my friend who's a massive Souls and Bloodborne fan. Like he just keeps playing the games over and over, and like he's like a big speedrunning guy. So he'll pick a game and he'll just keep playing it over and over and over. So he actually moved from the States to Japan, and he came up and he's like, "You got to play Bloodborne. You got to play Bloodborne." It was free on PlayStation Plus, and I was like, "I don't know." And then he pushed me to play it. He worked me through everything up to the first boss. So he's just like, "Here's some advice. You should probably put most of your upgrades into these 3 skills. You should probably use this weapon. Okay, this is how this works." Like he totally showed me the ropes. And then he went home because he had to go back to where he lives. And after I had that base knowledge, then I didn't feel like so overwhelmed with possibly like what the game was going to throw at me, and then I just fucking had a great time from then on. If he wasn't there to coach me through that initial step, I don't know if I would have liked it because I think I would have been so lost.
Cheers to him.
But yeah, cheers to him. And actually, we've co-opted after I beat it. We've been up until God of War came out. We've been co-oping the game, and we're almost done with it. I want to get I didn't get the true ending, but I'm going to co-op with him to get the true ending. So I'm almost done with the second playthrough of Bloodborne. Love it. I'm so fucking happy I played the game because now I'm actually excited for Shadows Die Twice, whatever that game may be.
Please.
Yeah, like Liam, you could have come on the show and said, like, because we're talking about E3 2018, right? You could have come on this show and said, "I can't wait for that game," and I would have been like, you're a fan. I don't really know much about it. Now I'm like really, really excited.
But the Souls games are just masterclasses in games design. It's like if you don't get them, you either have a very bad coach, like you need somebody to sort of kick that door open for you. Really, I mean, you guys have both seen Shane playing Dark Souls 1, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, the dude doesn't get it, and it's not his fault. It really isn't, because the game's design, especially in the earlier titles, is quite obtrusive. But once you understand what you need to do and what you're doing wrong, then those games become really excellent experiences and actually become fairly easy, but challenging still,
Right. Okay. To close this up, I have a hot take on Bloodborne, and it's actually linked to what you just said, Liam. I don't think it's that hard of a game. I was so worried about this game kicking my ass that I think I held off on it, and it's not a hard game. And here's why. So hear me out. So Patrick, you're a huge JRPG fan, right? Yeah. So am I. Like I grew up cutting my teeth on JRPGs. Yeah, Liam, I'm sure you've played a couple JRPGs. So I'm going to talk about Persona 4. That game is hard, but it can be, the game can be cruel. So like the game kind of tricks you into you can go into a dungeon and let's just talk about any JRPG. You go into a dungeon and you get to the boss and he kicks your ass, right? You say, "Oh shit." Well, what do you do at that point? You grind. You level up, and then you make sure you keep saving, and then you go back to the boss and you play him when you're ready. Bloodborne basically plays like a JRPG. So if you go to a boss and they kick your ass, all you have to do is go back into the world and just go around and gain enough blood echoes by killing enemies, go back to the hunter's dream, level up, and then take another crack at the boss. Do that.
Sometimes
and the funny thing is,
yeah,
which is true. Although I think one thing I never really did in Bloodborne is they have so many items. Like I never knew like what any of them did, and I'm not one of the people to experiment. Like once I find something that works, I just do that. So it's like all I did was like I found what works, and I never really experimented with the items, which are super helpful to you in specific boss fights. So I kind of missed out on that. But like, think about Bloodborne. It might actually be easier than a game like Persona 4, because like in Persona 4, you're on a time limit for how much you can grind, because you have to go out of the world. Like you for example, you have until Thursday to beat this dungeon,
Right.
or it's game over, and then it resets the week, right? So in a game in Persona 4, let's just say you grinded for like 2 hours, and then all of a sudden an enemy casts Muda, which is like the death spell, on your main character, and it's like a 2% chance hit rate. If it hits him, you're brown bread. You just lost 2 hours of grinding. But look at Bloodborne. If you walked around and grinded out a bunch of blood echoes and you died, you have at least one more shot to pick those blood echoes back up. Whereas in a game like Persona, once you're dead, that's it. If you didn't save, that's back to wherever the last time you saved. So in that aspect of it, if you're having trouble with the boss, just grind, and you should be fine.
My humble
that's something
opinion,
at least that I found out while
that the
playing
only
it.
Souls game I've ever played that I enjoy is Bloodborne. I don't know why I don't enjoy Dark Souls, but Bloodborne, I feel like it's because it's a lot faster. And also, to your point, Bloodborne is easy, especially when you have a person who knows what they're doing. So a lot of times I have the bow, so I'll just shoot the bow as the other guy goes up close. So that's a strategy I use for a lot of monsters in Bloodborne. But
yeah, that's cool.
Can I ask, have either of you played Dark Souls 3?
I have. So the issue with Dark Souls 3 for me is that I'm a big fan of katanas, and the thing is that I don't want to use a katana and a shield, and apparently you need a shield. So I just don't like turtling.
Oh, you don't need the shield.
I just
really, but it certainly
I'm
helps.
so used to how fast Bloodborne is, and how like you can like strafe and you can roll and all that stuff. In Dark Souls, you're a lot slower, and I just never got used to the speed of the game.
Well, Dark Souls 3 is then a little bit faster than the other Dark Souls games, which is quite funny. Yeah.
Liam, my friend just lent me Dark Souls. The same friend that pushed me to play Bloodborne. He lent me Dark Souls 3, and I played through the opening area with the first boss, like the test boss, if you will. I beat him, and then that's where I am right now. I will say
first try.
Second try. I will say the aesthetic doesn't quite grab me like the Victorian eldritch horror land of Yharnam does for me. I don't play like a lot of medieval games, and so like I've never played like the Elder Scrolls games or anything like that. But just there's something about Yharnam, the aesthetic.
Oh yeah,
really grabbed me.
Beautiful environment.
More so than what Dark Souls, the kind of medieval style of Dark Souls. But that's not to say that I don't like it. I just prefer the look of Bloodborne over the look of Dark Souls. There are a couple games on my plate. I might get to Dark Souls 3. My friend has just fucking texted me today. He's like, dude, have you started Dark Souls 3 yet? I'm like, no, I just fucking finished NieR. Like, leave me alone. So, all right.
They're like, you've only just played the beginning of that game, and there are a lot of different environments in Dark Souls 3. And personally, Dark Souls 3 is my favourite Souls game as a whole. Like, I love Dark Souls 3 so much. And I love Bloodborne. Like, I was surprised that I like Dark Souls 3 even more.
One thing that is going to take me a while is I'm playing Dark Souls 3 in Japanese, so actually going through the item descriptions and stuff, which is something that's really, really critical, especially in a game like Bloodborne or a Souls game. Like, you really have to start reading what everything means and what everything does. It's going to take me a bit longer to go through all of that stuff. Because the names are so specific. Like, even in English, they don't make sense necessarily. So I'm going to have like my iPad next to me and doing a lot of translation work to get through it. But that will also be a bit of it'll help me, study Japanese at the same time. Learning words that I don't fucking need to know, to be honest. But it should be a fun time. So
rather you than I.
Yeah. Don't study Japanese. Don't ever learn it. It's an insanely difficult language. Just stop now. Learn Spanish or Chinese or something. Not to say that Chinese is any easier than Japanese, but That's probably for another podcast. All right. So moving on to the meat and potatoes of the podcast. Let's start with Liam. So Liam, what is your topic of the show?
My topic is E3 2018.
E3?
And I would usually be the one go, what's your predictions, guys? What do you think is going to happen? Are you excited? But I thought, I should tone it down a bit. I am an excitable person, to say the least.
Sure.
I think we should try to have a discussion about what our expectations are for the conferences and try to be realistic instead of hype. Yeah.
Right.
Well,
right,
try
so
to be. Try
to be. Yeah, maybe we'll mix in a little dash of hype in there with our expectations. But
yes.
All right. So Liam, do you want to lead us off with? I guess you could start with the show in general, or one of the publishers, or one of the
I mean,
what do you think?
I suppose nowadays, none of us really will hardly give any craps about the show itself, just because. I mean, even the press sort of stated that the E3 isn't what it used to be, because since they've opened it up to the public, it isn't quite the sort of exclusive big event that it used to be. And yet again, like EA splintered off from E3 and does their own event, and now Microsoft is sort of in a different area, and yeah, I mean, and even Nintendo's sort of separate from E3 in a lot of ways. So it's more a discussion about the press conferences, really. I think it always has been. That's what's exciting about the week of E3 is all of the announcements and events that happen and get streamed online.
Yeah, I kind of look at I'm interested in individual games per se. Like I always get hyped up for E3, or it's not a hyped up. I don't want to say hype. I get excited for E3, and then I'm always kind of, as the show goes on, I kind of like reset my expectations of what's going to happen, because it's not going to be this grand scale, like every game you've ever wanted is going to be announced type of thing. But it's always interesting just to see what's coming out, especially games that you didn't expect. Like last E3, I actually stayed home from work because I was really, really sick.
Oh,
you guys?
Yeah.
You're
going to do the same thing this year, Evan?
I kind of get sick like June 13th-ish. It's really weird. Like every June 13th or 14th, I get like really, really sick. I got to stay home.
I don't know. I get the feeling you might be sick a couple of days earlier than that this year. Wink, wink.
Oh, yeah. Around, give it, like a plus or minus a week. It's a very dangerous time for my immune system. But I remember I was home and Shadow of the Colossus, the remake, just popped up on screen, and it's my favorite game of all time. Like I did not expect that at all. Speaking of expectations, that was not on my expected lists. I hope we get something like that after the recent Walmart leak.
Well, that's the funny.
That is kind of
that's the funny thing about expectations, isn't it? Is a lot of the time we sort of build these expectations about what we want, and then we watch the show and we get shown something that we didn't know we wanted, and we're completely fine with that. Maybe we didn't get some of the things that we really wanted, but instead we get something new that we totally didn't expect, and think, okay, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Another thing is, like, sometimes we don't even know what we want. Like, it's like, oh, I didn't like the end of that movie. Well, how would you have done it?
Yeah.
I don't know. Don't ask me. I don't fucking make movies. So it's like, sometimes I don't even know what I want from a show. So, like, I don't know. Like, Patrick, what about yourself?
I honestly am looking into every company, and these are my expectations. I don't care about Microsoft. Bethesda, they always have something that's going to come out this year, so I'm really excited. I'm hoping it's Elder Scrolls 6. For Square Enix, I'm just wondering. I just want to update about Final Fantasy 7, to be honest with you.
I
don't think that's going to happen.
Who cares?
Yeah. Well, I mean, when I mean by update, I mean I know that it's not going to happen until maybe what, like 5 years from now. But you know, an
Are you
update.
saying like a new trailer, new gameplay, that type of thing?
I would like it to be playable, to be honest with you. I mean,
Oh,
they said they're
interesting.
going to release it in episodes. At this point, it should be
Yeah,
playable.
At least a decent vertical slice, right?
Correct. Something that we can get our hands on and see how it feels. For Ubisoft, I mean, they generally just put out sequel after sequel, so I'm not really care about them. Nintendo, on the other hand, I am really excited about the new Smash Brothers. I want to know how it plays. I want to know the characters that are in there. I've played all the Smash Brothers since the first one on 64, so I'm really excited about this one.
yeah. So am I. I'm excited about Smash as well, just because I skipped Wii U, so it's been a long time since I played the Smash game.
Oh, you
Ugh,
skipped Wii U? Oh,
I
poor
did.
guy.
Oh no, not poor guy. I'm glad
You
I
missed
saved
you
my money.
you missed out on the best Smash Brothers ever.
Well, I'm hoping that that this Smash is everything that Smash was, but a little bit more, hopefully.
Yeah, I'm honestly hoping that it's like a deluxe version where it's practically the same game, but add a couple new modes, maybe like 10 new characters, and we'll be good.
Yeah, I would love it if they added something like Subspace. What was it? I can't remember
Emissary.
the name of it. That's it.
Subspace
Subspace
Emissary.
Emissary. If they added something creative like that onto the Switch version, that would be really cool because I thought that mode was Brawl was not as good as Melee. I think we can both agree on that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but Subspace Emissary was a really interesting single player mode.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it added a lot more character to it. I mean, you see some of the characters emote a little bit. It wasn't
Yeah.
much of a story, but it was there. It's an extra thing that you could play, and that's the one thing that I missed from the Wii U version was there wasn't anything like that, and then they also because there was a 3DS version, they put the target stages, they put that on the 3DS, but they didn't put it on the Wii U
Mm,
version. So it's
yeah. Dick
I'm
move.
hoping that the Switch combines all that.
Yeah, hopefully. I've got my fingers crossed.
Mm-hmm.
If they do that, then Nintendo will make everybody very happy. Even if, one thing I should point out about Nintendo's conference is I think everybody should lower their expectations. Not for Super Smash Brothers or anything like that, but lower their expectations in terms of announcements and what they might show because it's stated on their press release that they're focusing on games that are releasing this year and not stuff that is coming in the future, which probably means there's probably not going to be any Metroid Prime 4, probably not going to be any Bayonetta 3, probably not going to be a look at what Retro's been doing.
What
Yeah.
about a
I,
Fire
I, I've
Emblem
still got my
game?
fingers crossed for Pikmin 4, though. Ah,
Yeah, I mean they still got a lot
Or
more
a
stuff to
port
put
of
out.
Pikmin 3.
They could do it.
Yeah. I I bought my Switch last October. Um, had a great time with Super Mario Odyssey. Got all 999 Power Moons and all that good stuff. And anytime they release new outfits, I jump in the game, grind coins so I can buy them, just so that I keep at 100%. But to be honest, like I haven't played my Switch since that game. Like I already played Breath of the Wild on my Wii U, and the only games I'm looking forward to on the Switch are Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, which I already fucking played on the Wii U, but they have new levels, and I love that game so much that I want to get it again. And Octopath Traveler, because I played the demo and I absolutely loved it. It is a like homage, uh, homage. I like mixed the two. It didn't. That's not even a word. To to the old 16-bit JRPGs. But like in terms of anything coming out for the rest of the year, like I seriously after play Octopath Traveler, I don't see myself picking up my Switch until I don't even know what is going to come out because I don't give a shit about Smash Brothers. Uh, Although I'm excited, like it's weird. I don't like
hmm.
fighting games. I'm not interested in playing fighting games. Although I'm interested to see what new characters they add to the game. That's for some strange reason, like that interests me, even though I'm never going to play the game.
It's hard not to get a little bit sucked in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I don't get it. To be fair, like I've played Smash Brothers, I don't get it at all. But like like I'm thinking like if they really like Shovel Knight, that'd be cool. Like if they had like a trailer for Shovel Knight in the game or whatever, like I think people would go crazy for that. And I'm just kind of interested to see what new characters pop up for it.
I hope they don't put Shovel Knight in this. I mean, he's in everything.
That is true. He kind of put himself out there a bit, didn't he?
He's kind of horned himself out a little too much.
Yeah. I think he'd be good for the game. Like he has enough moves in the Shovel Knight game that would translate well into like a Smash Brothers game. And this is coming from a master Smash Bros player. Like I got like my wrist got fucked up. That's why I retired from the professional scene. But coming from someone who knows a lot about the game, I think his moveset would work well with.
No,
with
I
Smash
think so as
Brothers,
well. I really wouldn't mind if they put Shovel Knight in there. In fact, I would implore it.
No.
Yeah,
no.
I implore it.
Put Shield
Patrick,
Knight
I know
in.
you're not
At
happy
least
about
put
it.
Shield Knight in.
But,
like I'll be happy if they do that. But
what if they put both of them in?
Yeah,
I mean, there's enough Fire Emblem
I will be
characters.
fine with
Fire
that.
Emblem. Bloody hell.
Do I have any Fire
I have
Emblem
all of them.
amiibo? No, I don't.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you do. I think there's I've played one Fire Emblem game.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was for the Advance. I really liked it, but I haven't played one since. I don't like the 3DS. I think that nub sucks. And not only that, when I was playing Metroid Samus Returns,
Ooh,
it
that's
fucking
not good.
broke. I was like, that's the end of my. Well, that game is like really intensive on that nub, especially like the last boss fight. And I think it might have broken off at the last boss fight. And I was like, well, that's the end of the 3DS. I'm not buying another one.
I've never played a Fire Emblem game ever.
Oh, you're missing out, guys.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe this is what we should be talking about. So it's a weird thing, Liam. Like I look at Fire Emblem games, I'm like, but then I played one and I got like really, really into it. I've only played one. So if they release one for the Switch, would you consider buying it? Because for me, who's not a fan of the 3DS, if they release one for the Switch, I would totally consider buying it.
Oh, I'd totally buy it. In fact, I'm looking forward to.
They have
the
to.
new Fire Emblem
Surely, right? Surely they'll make a Fire Emblem game for the Switch.
Well, a lot of people,
even if it's not this year.
think it will release
Yeah,
this
they
year.
mentioned it last year, so I
Oh,
think
well, maybe
it's gonna happen
that's
this year.
That's within expectations, I think.
Yeah, that is
okay.
totally within expectations.
All right.
If not,
I kind of
it might
want
get announced because they'll
sorry,
expect it to come out this year, and then it will probably get delayed till next year. So
right.
There's that, I suppose.
All right. I kind of want to talk about Bethesda a little bit, just because I've slowly realized that I think Bethesda makes all of my favorite games, and it's not something that I sat and thought about. It wasn't like, oh, it's Bethesda, so I'm going to consume their games. It was, I played a shit ton of games, and then I realized that Bethesda was publishing all of them. So, for example, Dishonored is one of my favorite games ever. I own Doom. I haven't played it yet. I played the first hour. I need to get back to that. I have, I was going to say Bethesda 2. I'd play Bethesda 2. Dishonored 2. I have that sitting. I don't know why I haven't played it yet, considering I love Dishonored so much.
No,
Prey.
I'm in exactly the same boat. I haven't played Dishonored 2 yet either.
Yeah, I bought it. I own Doom and Dishonored 2, and I'm fucking spending my time wasting 20 hours playing NieR Automata. But Dishonored 2, Prey was so fucking good. I love that game. The Wolfenstein series is great. I can't wait for the next one. Hopefully they get to make that game in the next year or two. I don't know if it's in production yet, but they said they have... What did Bethesda say? They have one new game that they haven't said anything about that they're going to show at the show?
Well, we know Starfield's going to be there for sure.
Yeah, what is that?
The hell is that?
Oh, that's that is Bethesda Game Studios' new IP, We don't know if it'll still be called
it
Starfield, but it's basically their space game. They have a new sort of...
Boo!
Well, you haven't seen it yet. It might look good.
No, fuck space games, except for Prey. Hey, fuck everything except for the things that I like. I'm trying to be I'm trying to be unbiased here.
Evan, feel the same way, and I think we both want a new Fallout game, even though we only got one
Vegas
3 years ago.
A Fallout New Vegas too.
Yeah, well, that's what I want.
Yeah.
I
actually, you know what? Go ahead, Liam.
I want a new Fallout, like, terribly.
Yeah.
I love Fallout 4.
I didn't even play Fallout 3 or 4.
I love Fallout 4, but I want more. Is that selfish? Maybe, but I want more.
No. I think a lot of people want more, but
what? I mean, you can't get the mods.
No. I need a full new game.
But Patrick, it's weird. Like, I played back in the day. I always had a shitty computer growing up, but at least it could run Fallout 1 and 2. I love those games. Fallout 1 and 2 are some of my they're definitely top 20. I think Fallout or Fallout 2, I could change that out of my top 10 on any given day. Weirdly enough, I never played 3 or 4, but I played New Vegas, which I really liked a lot.
Really strange, but
I know. Cool. I know. Well, I didn't own it.
No, do you guys remember? I'm sorry. Do you guys remember when Shane complained about Fallout?
Was this on game trailers?
Yeah, he said he's like, you start in the desert.
Yes,
I do remember that.
Yes.
No, that's all right. Sorry.
That probably wasn't important, but Liam, so you saw those Twitter photos of like Big Ben or the Elizabeth Tower? I think is that what it's called?
Yes. New IP called God Save the Queen.
Yeah, with like the pink paint as like their kind of color palette, and like the giant rocket with like the pink paint on it. Like what is that? Is that the space game you're talking about?
That they're going to be putting out more photos like that over the weekend, and I think,
it's like really weird.
I think that's just one game. I feel like it might be multiple games, and each image corresponds to that game, and we're not really going to actually know what it means until we see the conference. I have a feeling, even though they have some announcement that they're making on Monday, clearly.
Or it's actually going to get leaked, or whatever.
They've confirmed the date that everything in their conference is just going to get leaked. Yeah, they thought they'd get in front of it.
That's whatever. As long as like, just one thing that I respect from them so much, and I just really wish this translated into sales, is like they are pioneering single player games in an age where everyone is basically saying don't do that. And it sucks that games like Prey, what else? What's another game that didn't do very well sales-wise? Dishonored 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Not too good by the sounds of it. Evil Within.
Yeah,
which is a surprisingly good game.
The Evil Within
really
2,
Evil Within
I
2.
wasn't really a fan of the demo, but a lot of people liked it. Yeah, so it's like they're pretty proud of it. Like they've kind of wore that mantra on their sleeve. That's not a turn of phrase, but I think everyone knows what I'm trying to say. Mm-hmm. It's like no, like we believe in single player games, and these are the games that we want to make, and we're going to make them. I mean, that can only go so far if that doesn't translate into money. But I just, it just kind of sucks that these games haven't been kind of the success story as some of these other games that are moving towards like, what do they call it? What do you cool kids call it? You fellow kids of mine, games as a service.
Yeah, games as a service.
Yeah, it's just kind of like, or just like, oh well, instead of just a single player game where you're playing levels or you're going from A to B, like let's just make everything open world, and it's just like,
I've got
not everything needs to be that way.
I agree.
First, it's like if they really are doing a sequel to Rage, then that's like that just goes to your point.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Like Rage did not sell well at all, I think that game was widely a failure, but if they're making a sequel to it, like, well, you can't help but respect them, like, for really having that commitment behind their IP.
No, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked Rage
really
a lot
enjoyed the demo.
when I
liked
played
the
it.
gunplay. I didn't like the car combat, which was most of the game.
I agree with that. That was like the weakest part of the game, Patrick. Yeah, the gunplay was really cool. I liked how the enemies kind of jumped around a lot, and you just had to really be on your toes at all times, and kind of like instead of just shooting straight in front of you, you had to pay attention to the walls and the like the all your corners and stuff like that. The story was like super like who gives a shit, but like the gunplay was really really good, and I liked a lot of the areas that you went into, and you're fighting like these kind of gangs that were set up shop in like these weird caverns and stuff, and you had to go in and like take them out. Like I really like that stuff. All right, we should probably move on. Is there anything? Yeah, is there anything we want to talk about
to your games of
to wrap it up?
Just to your games of as a service point. I hate to break your heart, Evan, but that's most likely what Starfield is supposed to be. Like, it's supposed to be a game as a service, or something more like Destiny, or
you know
Anthem.
Actually, I'm happy to hear that, because if they release a game, I might not necessarily be interested in it, but if it helps them stay afloat so that they can put and it's successful and they can put money into some of their other projects, like I'm all for that. Like I hope that game makes enough that we can keep getting our Dooms and our Dishonoreds and our Wolfensteins and our Preys and all that type of stuff. So hopefully.
Oh yeah, I didn't even consider that. That's a really good point.
I mean, it makes sense for them. It probably makes sense for them to have at least one of those, right?
I agree.
One of those games.
Everybody else has it.
Yeah.
I mean, Rockstar has GTA. Square Enix sort of has Final Fantasy 15. Yeah, so everybody has one.
Yeah. Everyone has one. All right. And speaking of assholes, sorry. That's let's move into topic 2. That was not a segue. It didn't really make any sense. Let's move into
It was close.
You got close. You got close.
Okay.
You got real near.
Oh God,
Evan.
Very near.
It was almost.
Did I get
atomic.
like NieR Automata near? All right, Patrick, what is your topic of this?
Okay, so I want to talk about NieR Automata. If you guys played it, what did you like or dislike about the game? And if you guys are hoping for a sequel, and if so, what it should improve on, or what should stay the same?
Okay, how do we want to tackle this? Do we want to like do the old talk about positives first and then move into what we didn't like about it, or the other way around?
Positive. So I'll go first, real quick. So
yeah, please.
So what I really like about the game is the story, obviously the music, and the fact that this is the first Yoko. What's his name? Yoko.
Yoko.
Yoko
No, it's I think it's Yoko.
Yoko Taro.
I should know this. It's
Yoko
Taro.
Taro.
Yeah,
Taro. Okay, so.
No, Tano, I thought.
So
it's Yoko Taro.
Yep. So Yoko Taro. So
yeah,
so anyway, so the thing about his games is that they have interesting stories, pretty good music, but the combat was crap. So for the first time, I can finally play a Yoko Taro game without getting disgusted about the combat. Because I believe the combat was made by the same guys who did Bayonetta. What's it called? Platinum Games.
Oh, Platinum Game. Yep, yeah. Platinum Games.
So I'm just a big fan of the story. The fact that that you beat a boss and then you find out a little bit more of his backstory. I felt, I got emotional with one of the bosses because I was like, wow, like that was probably me 10 years ago. And I just really like how Yoko Taro makes these games to make you really think about life in general. He's kind of quirky. He's wearing that helmet a lot. But I'm a big fan of this game. I'm hoping for a sequel, and I heard it's done so well that there will be a sequel. So I'm hoping for that.
All right. Uh, I guess I will start with the two things that you first talked about, which I agree with. I liked the music very much, especially Pascal's Village is another as a standout track for me. Um, and it reminded me of Akira a bit. Some of the music, it's kind of like this kind of like weird children's chorus type stuff going on in the background, and also the story. Now, the story is what pushed me through actually getting the main. So there's a bunch of routes. Like there's actually 26 different endings based on all the letters of the alphabet, A to Z, but the main story takes place over route A, B, C, D, and E. So if you wanted to get kind of the full story of NieR Automata, you kind of needed to play through all of those, which took me about 20 hours. So I pushed through, but the only thing that was keeping me through that game was I wanted to find out what happened and what the story was.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, where do I begin? So last year, the worst game of the year for me that I played that year was Lego Harry Potter.
Oh God.
That game was so bad, in my opinion, that I will never play a Lego game again. And the worst thing that game did, or it's the main thing that I didn't like about the game, it was so fucking boring. Like that is the biggest. I think I've realized that's my biggest video game sin. If a game's shit, there's actually things you can love about a shit game. Like there's things you could like pick out and okay, it has its charm, but it's a crap game. Or if it's a crap game, just stop playing it. But when a game is boring, it's just like, oh my god! And NieR Automata was so boring to play. Like, oh my, oh dude, this game is so fucking boring. Like,
all right.
the combat is so boring. Like, well, okay, here's one thing I don't like about the combat. So usually in a game, you tap. Let's just say you tap square and you'll do a single move. You tap square 3 times, you'll do 3 moves. You tap square 3 times in triangle, you'll do like a 4-hit combo. You can do that with NieR Automata, but if you just hold the button down, it'll like auto combo for you. And the reason I didn't like that is if you just hold the button down, which tends to happen when you're kind of mashing on buttons, it's like I don't really know how much input I'm giving the game, and the game's just kind of auto comboing for me, so it didn't feel like I was doing anything in combat. And as long as you get good at the parrying, which is like a main staple of Platinum games, like in Bayonetta, like you got to get good at the parrying. In NieR Automata, you got to get good at the parrying. In Metal Gear Rising Revengeance or whatever that game is called, you got to get good at the parrying. Same with this game, but in between the parrying, there's not really much for you to do. So and all the robots look the same. They all fucking look the same. And I'm just like holding. Well, I switched my controls to R1 and R2 just because I've been playing God of War and Bloodborne and that. So I'm like R1, just hold it down. Oh, okay, square parry, parry. Okay, hold it down again. Hold it down again. Okay, that guy's dead. Here's a guy that looks exactly like that guy. Okay, do that, and it's just like rinse and repeat for like 20 hours, and just.
So when you mean by the same, that are you talking about the enemies that they're all the same? You mean that?
Well, I mean,
or are you talking about the actual protagonist?
No, I'm not talking about the protagonist. Like I actually like 2B and 9S as characters, and A2. Mm-hmm. I like them because of the story. Like I wanted to know what happened with them, what's their deal, all that stuff. I'm talking about the machines.
Oh, okay. Well, I will say this, that the it's not my favorite combat from Platinum, but it's not the worst. So like I'm coming from the guy who played Drakengard 3 on the PS3.
Oh, okay.
And I also played the original NieR, so I played all of those games. So when I played this one, the combat to me was very fascinating. It was fast, fluid. I don't know what you mean by you holding down the button because I've never done that. So I don't know if maybe that just went over my head where I didn't realize that you're just auto comboing.
But I took off there are chips that if you play in easy mode, there's chips you can put in that auto parry for you and auto attack.
Oh, okay, because I'm on normal.
I took those out, so I was playing on normal as well.
Yeah. So yeah, I
But
was
if
on
you still hold down
normals.
the button, she'll still keep comboing for you.
Oh, okay. I had no idea. But what I do know is that I feel that this is a game that's mainly like the robots are just fodder for what's really going on, which are these boss battles. And I think these boss battles, I mean, each battle there's something significant happening in the background or afterwards. So I'm more looking at this game as a boss rush game, to be honest with you. I mean, the
Okay.
map is crappy. You know, it's horrible, and like I will say, they
It's
have a
just,
very
it's so empty.
yeah, it's empty. There's nothing really there.
And I'm sorry, the game kind of looks like shit, to be honest with you. Like, except for the character models, like if you look close, like
I kind of
the
disagree on that.
text, the
I disagree.
I don't know okay, like the machines look cool, but some of the textures, like in that kind of open area where it's all like dilapidated buildings,
Yeah.
I just think it just like it doesn't. There's nothing aesthetically pleasing to the eye there.
Right.
Again, it's not supposed to be. It's like a post-apocalyptic world, so
Yeah,
take that for
there's
what
not
you
much
will. But
there, so yeah.
but like another thing is like you get into this area. And you at first I thought it was gonna be like levels. I'm like, oh no, this is it. Like you have this area with all these buildings, and then there's like a desert and like maybe 2 or 3 other places that are small, and that's it. And have fun traversing that giant open area with nothing to do and no one to fight and no one to interact with, picking up items for someone and bringing it to someone else, and then taking that item and bringing it back to the same person. And then you get a quest where someone asks for several things, so you have to go out and fight a couple boring enemies and bring some shit back to them. It's like you're doing all this stuff and the fast travel doesn't open up till way later in the game, and I'm just sitting here and like trying to mash this button. It's like these characters do not move fast enough. This is so fucking slow. And I know there's chips you can input to make them slightly faster, but it's just like it's so boring to traverse that world because from A to B, like in a GTA game where you're in a car and the characters have a conversation or something to fill in that empty space, there's nothing to do between A and B. And not only that, the game makes you play the exact same thing over in Route B, and you still have to do the same thing. There's a mission where you have to bring something to someone and then take it back to the other person and then bring something back to that person. You have to do that twice. I'm just sitting here like, what playtester played this and thought that this was fun?
Will admit,
I'll admit boring.
That the second go around is a little tedious, but you know what? 9S plays significantly differently compared to, 2B. You know what I mean? And so I kind of feel like, I do think that they could have shortened the second playthrough in which we didn't have to do all that extra crap. But I like the fact that you could still see through his eyes because he's able to see the world in a different lens. So I think story-wise, it was appropriate, but I do agree with you that it was a little tedious. With you're literally going through the same area over and over again. So I get that, but you do know that you have a moose. You can get on a moose to traverse everywhere, right?
See, the only reason I found out you could even ride animals is because I looked at the trophy list, and then I bought the bait pack for animals. I bought animal bait, and I went up to the animal, and like I saw no button prompt. I tried to jump on it, it didn't fucking work.
I don't know, man. I never had a problem with jumping on a moose, except in real life.
That's words to live by.
If I could interject,
go for it.
Oh, please, yeah.
Well, it's interesting hearing this discussion because I have not played the game, and I actually bought it a short while ago. And Evan is not filling me with confidence, that's for sure. So maybe you two should try to sell me on why I should play this game.
I don't think you should play this game. I think you wasted your money.
No. I think you should play this game. It's a very great game. If you love stories, you're going to love the story. The gameplay, I think, is great. It's from Platinum Games. They're the same guys who made Bayonetta. And also the fact that there's a lot of replayability. The first campaign, is pretty much a Platinum game. The second campaign is going to be a little bit different. But then the third campaign is practically a mixture of the two. And so
it does change
Yeah.
things up. I'll give you that. Route
It's
C
never a boring moment.
flips
There's
some
always
shit
something
on
new.
you.
Like the thing is that 1 minute you're fighting one-on-one with a character, the next minute you're in a giant mech. Like it surprises you throughout.
Oh.
Yeah, it surprises you throughout the whole game, where it becomes like a shooter on rails to a beat 'em up to like another shooter on rails, but like vertical slice. It's it's different. You know what I mean? And the story is just amazing. I think that it's probably the best story that's been told in a long while. Like, it's better than Zelda. It's better than Mario. I mean, it's better than Final Fantasy 15.
I mean, that's not saying much.
I think it's better
Yeah,
than Final Fantasy
you need to
15,
use better
to be honest with
examples than those.
Okay. So actually, someone who played Horizon, because they're both very different stories, Liam, very different. But they're both set in post-apocalyptic worlds. I will say, it's kind of like in Horizon, you're like, what's happening? What's happening? Oh, okay, this happened. This is kind of what I expected.
Oh, yeah.
But we talked about this during the episode in December, and it's like, but I still want to know exactly how did we get from A to B, and then you learn that story, and it's interesting through the whole way. This story is like, you're not interested in how you got from A to B.
Oh, yeah.
You're more interested in like what's happening with the characters now. It's not about how the world went to shit. It's about like what's happening now with the people that are left there.
Mm-hmm.
So would you agree with that?
They do tell
Patrick?
you towards the end, but
they do tell you
definitely
what
more
happened.
about the characters and not really about the world as much. So yeah, I do agree with you. Because I mean, they eventually tell you how you got
and
there.
I like that stuff.
And
yep, I like. I mean, I liked all that stuff. I thought that was really interesting. It's very philosophical.
Yeah.
The story is. So yeah, that stuff was good, and it was good enough that I actually played through the game several times over. Okay, here's one way I can put how I felt about the world traversal. Imagine you were playing a Castlevania game, like one of the DS games, right, or the Game Boy Advance games. You start the game off, you have no double jump. Okay. Right, and like you were waiting. You were like the first hour of that game. It's like you were waiting. Like, I'm going to beat the first boss, and I'm going to find that double jump.
Oh, so what is it? Is it like something in the environment feels big, makes the environment feel bigger than it is, but something's limiting you from sort of reaching a certain point?
No, it's just really boring to walk through it. Like you just have to run through this giant environment to go from A to B all the time. That's it. It's just really boring.
Game, but I have to say, if you find a moose, you're able to get anywhere pretty quickly. I will agree though that the map needs a lot of work. Like if you're thinking of finding a target on the map,
the map sucks.
Very hard. But I'll say,
well, there's a reason for that too, though, because they say like, hey, the map kind of sucks because our satellites can only produce this good of an image of the area. So it's like, I see what you did there, but
they added that in the last week of development.
And okay, here's something that people should stop doing too. Don't have the characters in the game complain that the side quests are boring.
Oh no,
it's not funny.
Oh, that's not good.
9S complains about doing like, oh, we got to go back there again. It's like, yeah, 9S, I know it sucks.
But it's like those small quips that really give the game more character, I feel. You know what I mean? Like
when they're talking together, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean they have a weird relationship, and you can just kind of tell that it's not natural. And I mean, I know they're not humans, but I think that it answers the question, like, if we weren't here, the things that we left behind, how would they feel?
Right. Yeah, and I liked all that stuff, but it's like they give you, so you work your way towards the double jump, and then like you get all of the other upgrades. So like now you're in this game like Castlevania or Metroid, and you're dashing and you're screw attacking, you're double jumping, and then you beat the game, and it takes all of that away and asks you to play through it again. And it's like, oh my god, like I unlocked fast travel. Now I have to fucking go from A to B again. I already had fast travel. So it like takes everything, all your tools away from you and asks you to play from the start. I'm like, oh my god.
But you're a different character though. Don't forget that. Like you're not playing as the same character. So I feel,
but the movement is still the same. Like you kind of do your run or like your double jump.
Yeah. Well, I mean, well, when we talk about 9S, like he is very different compared to the other two. So I think that honestly, I
Right.
don't know about you, but I mean, I played him a different way compared to, 2B. So all I'm saying, Liam, is that you do not want to miss out on this game. Form your own opinion. Like, play it. Here's the thing. Here's what I've done, because I think what Evan's done is you've played it. You just played it straight through, right, Evan? You didn't take a break.
Yeah, which is actually one thing that Vin, he used to be
Yeah.
on the podcast. He told me, like, I played Lego Harry Potter. I played it too much every day, and that's why I got burned out on it. But that's what I tend to do with games. So like I played 20 hours of NieR in about 6 days, maybe. Maybe that was a bit too much.
Okay.
It was too much, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh.
You gotta take a break, man, because
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. That's the reason why
right.
I'm not jaded.
Sure. Like you actually took your time. Yeah.
Yeah, well, like I give you a perfect example. I beat the first leg of the story with the one character, right?
Okay.
Started the second character. Then I took a couple days break, and then I started again, beat it, and now I actually haven't beaten the third character yet. But
okay.
I take breaks in between, like, you know what I mean, because like Persona 5, I'm on the last dungeon, and probably this week I'll probably go in and beat it. But I take breaks
like a normal person. Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe that's
very interesting information.
The best advice could be from there. All right, we could probably wrap up. One thing I will say though is and actually, Liam, I would love for you to like either add to the thread that I made on Sifted or start your own thread on your thoughts. But Patrick, and I know you disagree with me. It's totally fine. But I thought the shmup section of this game was also very boring because it's really easy. And you ever play a game where, like, let's just say you're in a room fighting enemies, and they just keep coming, and you're like, okay, it was fun the first 5 minutes, but I'm kind of doing the exact same thing and nothing's changing, but they keep throwing enemies at me. The shmup sections went on way too long, and it's like, I'm just shooting the same people. There's no challenge here, but they keep coming. Like, and then I just started to get bored. And then it just kept going. Like, yeah, so there's one boss at the end, towards the end of the game, that's in the shmup section that I really enjoyed. I'm pretty sure you know what I'm talking about. But however, all the other shmup sections, like, I just thought it was boring. I just think the combat's boring. But, okay, anyone listening to me, I think Bayonetta 2 is highly overrated. I think that game gets... I think that MGX Nova, he's like, dude, that's one of my favorite games of all time. So we were like we were on a stream going back and forth about like how we just, for some reason, we just can't connect on the games that we like. And I was like, oh my god, Bayonetta 2 gets so boring because there's no downtime in between fighting. The game just asks you to fight for 8 hours straight, and then it ends, type of thing. So anyone,
I have the exact same problem with them. MG Noxa.
Okay.
Yeah, that's funny. But I sort of agree with you because I've always found Platinum to be very overrated.
I don't know if you're going to like this game then, because I think they are too. Now that I've played Bayonetta 2 and NieR...
one of the things I think is most overrated about Platinum is their story.
Oh, it's not a story by Platinum.
So that's my point. That's the one thing that gets me a little more interested. Than usual.
Yeah, then maybe the story and that story being the carrot on the stick will be enough to take you through maybe the combat that you might not necessarily appreciate as much as like Platinum Games fans. But
I mean, I think we both agree, Evan, that Vanquish is the best Platinum game.
Oh, yes, it is. Yeah. They should stop making fucking hack and slash games and just go back to like people sliding on their knees and shooting shit.
They should. Yeah, they were very good at it. I mean, I'm trying to think. Mad World. I even liked that game. I thought Mad World was pretty fun.
Oh, I never played. I have a Wii, but I never got around to playing it.
I like the graphics.
Yeah, I had to play it. I was like, violent game on the Wii? I need to play this.
I'm sorry, Patrick, what were you going to say? You liked...
I like the graphics on the Platinum Wii game. I thought that was actually a pretty cool.
Is it the Mad World one?
Yeah, the Mad World. I thought that was
Yeah,
pretty cool.
yeah. The kind of comic book black and white aesthetic was like really neat. Stand out on a system like the Wii. Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. So, but Liam, maybe you should be our tiebreaker. Maybe you should play NieR Automata, and then next time when we're all three of us are on an episode of Podcast Reload, you can kind of be the tiebreaker.
Yeah.
I guess I'll have to be. Yeah. But by the way, you have convinced me to play the game. I mean, I already own it, so like that there isn't. It's just more of a whether you're going to use your time on it, I suppose.
Yeah. So maybe the best takeaway from like when you start tackling NieR is like don't just play it like. So basically, like for example, Patrick, I beat Route A and I just moved straight into Route B and played that for like another 3 hours. So I'm just like, why do I have to do this again? So maybe I should have put the control down and waited a bit before jumping back into the game.
What would you say, Patrick?
I think it's important that you absorb the...
I was just going to say, like, if I completed Path A, how long of a break would you say it would be a good idea between when I finish it and when I start Part B?
I would say a few days.
Yeah.
Maybe a few days.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel that when you play the game, you want to take a day or two to kind of think about the plot, because I feel like from the first character's position, things may look differently compared to the other character. And then, you know, I don't think this is a spoiler or whatever, but you know the boss that sings? Have you guys ever seen that trailer where like the boss sings and all that?
Nope.
Like an opera type deal. You know what I'm talking about, Evan?
Yep. Yeah, I know. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, it's cool.
You know what I mean? Like that one there, when you play it as a second character, you will realize that there's actually a more tangible reason of why that boss is doing what it's doing.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And it sounds silly, but I felt like it touched me there, because I was like, wow, like, you know, like that's a very human way of looking at it. You know what I mean?
Sure. And
that definitely does sound interesting.
Yeah, I think that like the story is the most interesting part of the game, but yeah, I like it for me, especially with games that I find boring, or like imagine something like all this you find something that annoys you about anything. It could be anything. And then once you have that opening, you start paying attention to possibly other things that will annoy you, and then just the hole keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and then everything fucking annoys you. Like that's what happened with this game.
Politicians, man.
Yeah, that's what happened with me. Like when I started getting bored by the world traversal, I like pricked that hole, and then as I was being bored, I just started focusing on like the more negative things about the game, and that hole just got bigger and bigger and bigger for me. But I guess I will say, let's end this on a positive note, even though I totally don't want to. Because I like to tell people how much I hate things. Very unlike the internet. All right. I will say that the story and knowing exactly what happened and the character interaction, that stuff carried me through the game. I still walk away from it thinking that I spent too much money on it and I only paid $30 for it.
Right.
But if I could take two things away from it, I think the story is really interesting, and the music is really, really good.
I've heard the music is really, really good.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. It's very anime. Like at the last third of that game gets really fucking anime. But like my wife was sitting on the couch the other day and she's like, something happened, and then all of a sudden she's like, well, what about 9S? And I was like, oh, you were actually paying attention? Like, and she didn't even see me play through like routes A or B, so she was like not hooked, but like interested in what was going on like in route D or whatever the hell I was doing, and I kind of caught me off guard. So I'm like, oh, okay, maybe there's something in here for everyone. But okay, let's close this off. But yeah, I think both Patrick and I agree. Like we're both interested to hear what your thoughts on it once you finally get around to it, Liam.
Okay, I will let you know.
Pressure's on you. Pressure. All right. All right, so coming up to the end of the show, podcastreload@gmail.com, at podcast_reload on Twitter. I am at the stand user on sifted.net, Giant Bomb on Twitter, and you can find me at Filmstar Revenge with 1R on PSN. Liam, how about you? Closing comments, thoughts, Twitter handles, anything like that?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at Black Liam Neeson. And you can find me on sifted.net as Tomb Raiders. And I mostly Tomb Raiders on most platforms, but yeah, other than that, I guess can't wait for E3, brah.
Yeah, seriously. I'm looking forward to it. I guess we never really talked about what we would want the sequel to improve on if they end up doing a NieR Automata sequel. Speaking of E3, like, is like more like a more life in the open world, a bit more to do for side quests and just fetch shit in the desert and bring it back to someone. Make the traversal in the open world a bit more interesting. Like, give me a chipset that makes me like dash really fucking fast, like the quick boots in Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. Give me a chipset that makes me double or triple jump, or do some like double jump to like like flying forward. Like, give how like Bloodborne players and Dark Souls players are like, when you're traversing the world, people just like spin around and kind of do these like weird things to occupy their time. Or like in Bloodborne, they'll like switch their weapon from like the weapon has 2 modes. They just kind of walk around. It's like a tick. They kind of walk around and just keep like flipping their weapon back and forth. Like, that type of stuff keeps people engaged in a game when they're doing the same thing over and over. Like, just give me a bit more movement in the next game where I can like run faster or dash super fast or triple jump or quadruple jump or something like that, or like a parasol.
I mean, they kind of gave that to you in the first game, where like a brief time they gave you a mech, a flying mech. Like, just make this, like, let us use the mech to traverse. Like, I totally get it. Yeah, like, I agree with you on that. Like, because they had it, they didn't give it to us. You know what I mean? So they could have, but they didn't. So yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, so a bit of that would definitely help, at least the traversal from A to B and stuff like that. But all right, and Patrick, how about you? Goodbyes, Twitter handles, thank yous, anything?
Yeah, well, you can find me on Sifted at JoachimDragoon. You can also find me on the PSN at JoachimDragoon. And I also do a political podcast called Minorities Report. You can find that on iTunes.
Oh, are you serious?
Ooh,
yeah,
cool.
That's a really good name, by the way.
That is a good name.
So, yep, Minorities Report.
I did not know that. Is that a new venture since last we spoke?
Yeah, I mean, I've done 5 episodes, but right now I have the most recent episode on iTunes. And so it's a pretty cool show. I'm trying to find more people to do the show with. So if you guys are interested, let me know.
All right.
Cool.
Well, sounds good. Okay. What else do we got? Yeah, sorry. I know when there's things that I don't like, or if I'm like wholly negative on something, I tend to get a bit loud. So sorry about that. But
you're passionate.
I just like it.
We're all passionate.
Yeah. It reminds me of I equate it to being a big sports fan. And one great thing about being a sports fan is talking trash. Not like being mean to people, but just kind of going back and forth. Like, like fighting with a Chicago Bears fan. Like, they hate the Green Bay Packers and I hate the Chicago Bears. I would expect nothing less from a Chicago Bears fan than for them to hate the Green Bay Packers. That is part of who they are. So I respect that portion of them.
Evan, what you're talking about right there is we have a word for that in Great Britain, and we call that banter.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Yeah, for us it's like it's way worse, but for you, no, that's just banter. You shake hands by smashing someone over the head with a glass.
Absolutely. And after the game's over and you're not talking sports, you shake hands and go, "Don't worry, it's all in jest." Exactly. Right?
Yeah. So the way that I kind of trash on games is I equate that to how I talk about when I sit down and I talk about sport with my friends, and that's just kind of how I approach it. I'm not trying to be mean, but I like dunking on games if I hate them. But if someone hates if someone hated Shadow of the Colossus, my favorite game of all time, I want to hear you just trash it. I want to hear how.
That's a piece of fucking shit, by the way.
Hey, you'll never be on this podcast again. But yeah, so yeah, there's that part of it. But now that I've played NieR Automata, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Like, the story was interesting enough that I'm interested to see where they go with it. So hopefully, tying both of our topics together, hopefully it'll show up at E3 2018. But we will see.
You never know.
You never know.
They might become gods.
Might become gods. You never know.
That's a bit quick. I would not get your hopes up for that quite soon. Maybe next E3.
Yeah, NieR Dad of Boy, Automata.
Yeah.
All right. That's going to do us for episode 55 of Podcast Reload. And we will catch you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.